Hi everyone, it's Michelle from Country Morning Creations, and I am here with the last of 6 journals. I do my journals in batches, if you will, and this is the last journal for the first half of 2020. So I have over here 5 journals. This was my January journal, and my February journal, my March. My April is where we did the, now I'm drawing a blank on what this is called, dashboard. There we go, dashboard. And my May one, and here I have my June, and the last one in this series. So what I've been doing, I generally pick a paper pad, and for this one I've been using the Darcel paper pad by Prima Marketing for all 6 months. And then at the end I will create a binder and put all of these together. So the reason I started doing monthly journals was because I love making big fat journals, but I could not wrap my brain around how do I fill a big fat journal. I want to do daily journaling, and so by breaking it down into smaller journals that I then put together to make a big journal, then for me that works best. So of course you do whatever works best for you, and I appreciate all the people who always give me such wonderful feedback about my monthly journals. People seem to love to come and see what I do, and I appreciate that whole thing. So the biggest thing with this journal was when I chose this paper, this was on the left side and this was on the right side. Well, when you fold that in half, what I would have ended up was this would have been on the back. So if you stay tuned throughout the whole video, you'll see I do show you how I fixed that and ended up, I wanted this to be on the front cover. So what do you do when you have a paper pad where the pages are reversed, or you want to flip them around so that you have a beautiful picture on the front? Again, I printed out the months on some matte sticker paper, and I love that I don't have to print these by hand because my handwriting is not quite there yet. So I have these printed out, and I just added that, and this is an extra little piece I've added as well, but otherwise this was the picture for the front, and I loved it. Now I don't normally decorate the inside cover, but I don't know, I just felt like it this time. So I've added a couple of pieces that are part of the Darcel collection, and this one says Sweet Journey, and this is just a little pocket I added that says blessings, and it has a couple of things. It says Our Family, and I believe this is a ticket where you could buy tickets. This one says Laugh, and then this was just a little bit of the leftover paper that I had. So I added these in here, and just, I don't know, I felt like I wanted to throw those in there. Now, as usual, I have used my 28-pound Hammermill paper, which is acid neutral, and then I also, or acid free I should say, and then I acid neutralized my coffee dyed paper with baking soda. And I'll link below my little video about how to do that if you're interested. The other thing I did was I used an edge punch that has this beautiful rose pattern. I always do flips in my journals so that I can, it gives me a little bit of extra writing space, and I also have some extra decorating space. So my journals all start out blank, and then let me just go back to my January one. I decorate them as I go. Actually, this is one that I really didn't decorate much. Let me see if I can find one that I decorated a little bit more. Ah, there we go. So this one I started doing more stickers on it. So I prefer to go in and add my own stickers. April, February, March. Let's take a look at this one. Ah, so this one I got really crazy, and I did a lot of stickers. And so I'm really crazy for stickers, and so I love using them. And so I've gone back in and used quite a bit of stickers and decorated my pages. So I'm getting more into the decorating stuff now. So for right now they're blank, but they won't be by the end. This is an old book from the late 1800s. So I like to add book pages in. And then I did avocado dyeing, and I love this color. This color just is so pink. A lot of times when I do avocado dyeing, my avocado dye comes out more brown towards the brown sides, and this pink is just stunning. So I was very excited I had to use that in my journal. And I went back, I put some tissue paper. I haven't used that in a while, but I had some, so I threw that in. And instead of Edith Holden this time, I have a field guide to flowers that I used instead, and I loved the blue in this. So again, it's not a lot of pages. There are 8, I always do 8 papers for 32 pages of writing material. But then if I want to stick pictures or things like that, I can always stick them to these pages. I know a lot of people will even go ahead and write on their tracing paper and other papers. And then the book pages are great for, you can stick stickers on them. I can also add pictures. I can do all kinds of things with those. So I really like having all of that. So anyway, that is my June Traveler's Notebook for my daily journaling. I journal every day. And I think in the last 2 years, I've missed one day in each of those years for various and sundry reasons. It's just a great way for my mental health. I can process what's happened the day before. I can think about what's going to happen today, and I can jot down things that are important to me. So that's how I use my daily journals. And now, if you'll stay tuned, I will talk to you about how to make a journal cover out of papers that just won't work, just cut straight out. So the question here today is, what do you do when you're using a 12 by 12 paper pack and what is printed is on the wrong side? So I want this to be on the right side, so when I fold this whole thing in half, that I can have this on the front. I want this to be the cover, and I don't want just this blank part over here. So what we're simply going to do is splice those two things together. So let me cut this up real quickly. We're going to cut this little top part off because I don't want that at all. And a lot of these paper pads come with this little bit of extra up here on them. But I'm going to just take that off. And then we're going to cut this at the 8.5. So I use 8.5 by 8.5 sheets for when I am making these, and I'm trying to see this. One of the things I don't like about this is it's really hard to see this ruler unless you're at just the right angle and the light is perfect. I mean, it is difficult. So probably something I ought to do is just take like black ink and rub it over this so that it is it's easier to read. All right, so if that's 4.5, what we want to do then is, it's 8.5 by 8.5. Half of 8.5 would be 4.25. So we're going to cut this sheet down to 4.25, and that's going to cut some of this off, which I actually don't want to do. I'm going to actually take this down, cut 1/4 inch off this side so that I keep more of the design. And this part I don't care as much about, so we'll get rid of that. And now we're going to take it down to just 4.25 this way. 4.25. There it is. My husband, who is a carpenter, always says, measure twice, cut once. And I measure like 12 times and still manage to cut things wrong. So we've got that. And now I'm going to take, this will be, actually I'm going to flip it upside down, which is one of the advantages I have. And we're going to cut this at the 4.25 inch mark as well. About there. So now that we've cut them in half, I'm going to get rid of all of this. Well, I'm going to hold on to that because we'll probably need it in a few minutes. I want that to be the back and that to be the front. So it will open like this, and it will look like this on the outside. And this is now, when you put these all together, it's a square. So you have 8.5 by 8.5. Now comes the tricky part. How do we hold all of this together? I painted some fabric a while ago that I want to use on this, but you could use another piece of paper. You could take part of this and cut this the width that you want. There's a lot of different things that you could do. So what you want to simply do is you're going to match this all up and lay over this the piece that you're going to use. So right now I'm going to cut this into a 1-inch strip, which will then make this, I think that'll make it, it'll only hang over about 1/2 inch on either side, which I think should be just about right. So we're going to, let me see what this looks like. Is this too wide? Huh? I think that's going to be perfect. So the other thing before I match all this up I'm going to do is I'm going to actually draw a mark down the inside. I like to use pencil, but this way I know I have everything matched up right. So I'm going to mark the 1/2 inch mark. I am terrible at eyeballing things, so this is where this is just a good way to make sure that everything is going to line up properly. And I want this to line up right smack dab down the middle. And I am going to have this hang off the sides a little bit. So now we're back here. I am going to grab my Fabri-Tac and put that over the back of this piece. Although I have to say the back is pretty as well. So actually I'm going to move this over just a little bit and we'll get some glue on this. So I like Fabri-Tac for a lot of things, and some things I don't. It just depends. And I also find it gets really thick. So if you need to thin your Fabri-Tac or your 3-in-1, any of those, use acetone. Acetone will help you to thin it out. It's what this is made. So this is an acetone based glue, which is why it doesn't wrinkle your fabric when you use that. And so that is great. So I'm going to throw these two pieces down and match them up again. I threw down a piece of paper so I don't glue this to my work table. And now we're going to take where that center line is and line that up on the piece that we're using here. So I'm going to flip that back a little bit, and actually leaving this a little tiny gap is not a bad idea. Then I can see better where I'm going. And I'm just going to roll that up that way. And now we're going to take it this direction and make sure as we roll it down that we're lining everything up. And what I also like about the Fabri-Tac for something like this is I've got a little bit of extra time in order to kind of make sure that everything is laying flat. So like for right now, this I'm going to stretch up a little bit more, and this I'm going to stretch down a little bit more. So again, you can either use fabric, you could use painted fabric, you could use a variety of things. And all I'm going to do is take this, I want to tuck this little bit over the top so it wraps over the top. And we're going to do the same at the bottom. And I'm going to just cut this little bit off as well and just wrap this part up. So that is how you fix something where you want to reverse the direction of the pad. So if you've got a pad that the things are backwards and you still want to use it to be a cover for your monthly journal, simply cut it apart and then you're going to glue it back together using that. So I hope you've enjoyed that little quick tutorial, and I hope you've also enjoyed looking through my June journal, and I hope I've inspired you to be creative today.